Hi, I'm Meryl Key, and this is my mystery school. This is the Heart of Tarot series, where we go through the entire tarot deck from start to finish with everything you need to know about tarot. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any uploads. And if you want to support my channel, a like, share, comment goes down really well. Thank you. This is number 7 in the series, where we dive deep into the symbolism and the meaning of each card of the Major Arcana. We've covered the mundane or the earthly level of the Fool's journey in the last 2 videos. Now we're getting into the Duck's Guts, the stage of psychological lessons, where the Fool learns that life is more complex and multifaceted than they first realised. It's a rough ride for the Fool and a lot to uncover, so we'll break this part into 2 sections. In this vid, I'll go through cards number 8 to 12. That's the Strength card through to Justice. And in the next video, we'll continue the cards in this line and finish with some spreads and a review. Get your cards ready, get your journals ready, and step into the second level of the Major Arcana. Hi, I'm Meryl from the Heart of Tarot and my mystery school. And this is part 2 of the Major Arcana, the psychological level. So we know the Fool has learned all the lessons of the mundane, of the physical, the basic things you need to do, like survival stuff. Now he has to learn inner strength. This is the stage of the Fool's journey where he has to learn about consequence. You can't just go through life picking and choosing. There are reactions and cause and effect. Your influence starts to affect those around you. So I hope you're seeing how the Major Arcana develops as a story and starts to open up. And as you're learning this, it will stir up your own inner development. That's why writing in your journal and drawing, meditating with the cards can really help you through this process. For some of you, this is going to press every button. And for others, it's going to feel like coming home. For some, there might be judgment about listening to your intuition, trusting what you're hearing, trusting to voice it. But tarot helps you move through all of those things because the pictures kind of activate a part of your brain that lets that creative process open up. So get your journals ready, get your coloured pencils ready, get your cards ready, get a cup of tea, and we'll get stuck into the second level of the Major Arcana, the level of psychological development. So here we are, the first card of the second line, Strength, number 8. And for a moment, just pause the video and write down your first impressions of the Strength card. Number 8, the Strength card, is a card of conflict. So we left the first line of the mundane in the physical with the Chariot. This is also a card of conflict, but look how differently they do their conflict. So before conflict gets psychological, it's just making a decision, preparing yourself and going for it. This is direct conflict. With the Strength card, we've got some sort of duality. There's a dance that happens with this conflict. This is the card for conflict that's long term. When you're in for the long haul and you can't just go at it hard, you have to learn to manage the beast. So the lion here is the ego out of control. And you can see this beautiful, graceful woman here has to tend that lion. She's actually got the lion's jaws open. It's a card where using your vulnerability is actually the strongest power you can have. Being able to not take on the hurt of other people's direct attack. Being able to be strategic, have patience, and have grace and dignity. There's no armour on this figure. She is soft and pure in a simple gown and some flowers. She hasn't got the direct stare of this guy. She's focused on the issue, on quelling the beast. She needs to contain her impulses in order to successfully meet this challenge. The key words for the Strength card: courage, mastery, because it's her experience that helps her do this dance. Restraint, because this is a lion, and if her impulses get the better of her, the lion will react. It's a card of a soft and gentle approach, thinking about the long haul. It's a card that shows good health and strength. It's a card of cooperation and using your art, being adept, using your skill and your experience, rather than, pushing on like a bull. In its negative form, this card can mean a bully. It can mean someone that's always playing power games. It's a power struggle. It can be passive aggressive, and it's where the ego has got the better of this dance in the challenge, in the conflict. Let's have a closer look at this card because it's got so many interesting symbols and it's actually very dynamic. It's really a gorgeous, beautiful image with this graceful woman in her white dress. She has a garland of flowers around her and she's closing the jaws of a lion, but with such gentle pressure. She's called the Dancing Maiden, and she gives an indication of the kind of dance you have to do when you're working with a wild beast. The lion represents the wounded part of the ego, the parts that you don't want to show, the monster inside. But she has such a gentle touch. She's the one in control of this angry part of the ego that wants to express. The garland starts in her hair, around her waist, and it actually becomes a harness for the lion. Strength is retained in such a gentle, creative way. And it also shows this sort of union, this bond that comes in this dance. They're a team. Later on we'll look at the devil, where we'll see the links between people are chains. But here it's a garland of flowers. This figure 8 is the sign of karma. What goes around comes around. It's an infinity symbol that links to the magician. And we can see similarities in these cards. We've got the white robe, the garland, the yellow sky. Linking this card to the element of air, using your intelligence, your mentality. In the Strength card, we have to use the skills that the magician gave us, or else we're destined to repeat this power struggle. The mountain in the distance, to me, shows the reverse, the other side of the Lover's card. This conflict is in for the long haul, and it's another thing that happens on the journey of the lovers, to learn this level of strategically, delicately, gracefully handling challenge and conflict. The Strength card is a number 8, the number of infinity, of things coming back, things that you worked for coming back. 4 plus 4, structure plus structure, building on the foundation. The number 8 is always looking for that harmonious balance between the physical, the mental, and the spiritual. And although it's built on 2 4s, so it's really solid, it has movement. It's linked to the astrological sign of Leo, the sign of the lion, a fire sign. Leo the lion is proud, warm, generous, and very protective of its family at its best. At its worst, out of balance, Leo is sulky, aggressive, and attention-seeking, rather like a power struggle. This is the stage of the journey where the Fool has to learn self-control and restraint. He's got to learn to respond rather than react. It's a feminine kind of strength compared to the Chariot, which is very masculine, very direct, start, middle, end. This one knows sometimes the story goes around. For a caterpillar, becoming a butterfly, this is the stage of the journey where the caterpillar realizes there are predators. And not every caterpillar is able to do this. So they use camouflage or disguise. They develop a more complex relationship to the broader world. The Chariot is about direct action. This card is about concealed action. Where you need to be strong with this card is to have grace and skill, to be able to negotiate and dance around and wait for others to come up to where you need to work with them. It's about cooperation and yielding. And yet it's also about summoning your inner strength, because you are working with some of the most dangerous parts of other people's personality. It needs patience and persistence. And so sometimes with this card, there might be delays or blocks, or things might not get ahead. But if you're strong, you will get success. In your journal, write down the places where you feel you have feminine strength, where you can be yielding or receptive. What gives you feminine strength? After conflict, we ask why. And this is the point of the journey where the Fool has to go inside and reflect on what's happened. He starts to ask questions. And this is the Hermit. The Fool has learned that relationships can get messy, and he needs a bit of time out. He needs to grow. So for a moment, pull out your own Hermit card, pause the video, and write your first impressions. What do you see in this card? Do you see a lonely, forlorn figure? Or do you see solitude and the chance to seek answers? The Hermit is both. It can be very isolated and out in the cold, or it could be where your inner world lights up, where you seek a wise person and the answers start to unfold for you. This is the time where you clear yourself of distractions, and all you've got here is this golden staff to guide your way, and the lantern, which gives you illumination. But at the moment you can see that lantern is held within a framework. So the Hermit suggests there's a framework or a process you need to go before you can have illumination. It's a card of searching, of looking for meaning. After conflict, we're often left with that sort of existential crisis. And that's what the Hermit's about, asking why. The Fool learns to abandon the material world with this card. It can be painful, or it can be incredibly freeing. The key words with the Hermit card: illumination, isolation, revelation, seeking and questioning. And sometimes it means seeking out therapy, to be able to mentally evaluate, sometimes with a wiser person or an older person, a more mature person to help you. Let's have a better look at this card. It's cool, but it's not frozen. We see this hooded figure in grey, and you might immediately recognise this from a Led Zeppelin album, or Jimmy Page used to identify with this symbol. It's a mystic, a holy man, a sage, a shaman. We know this archetype instantly. The wise old man who's withdrawn from society to reflect and contemplate. The golden staff is linked to the Fool here. But this time, it's ahead of the Hermit. It's ahead of the figure. It's guiding him. It's called the Staff of Knowledge. He's using it as a support. The Fool's swag is now a lantern. The baggage has been discarded or integrated. The lantern is held up with a six-pointed star in the middle of it. It can only light a very small part of the way. So the Hermit is saying there's enough illumination to take the next step. We can only absorb as much light as we're ready for. The Hermit says, even when there's nothing there, to follow your own light. The snow and the low mountains here are again reminiscent of the Fool. But here where the Fool has to make that journey, the Hermit is on top of the mountain. Number 9 is the number of compassion, of global awareness, spiritual consciousness, reaching up. It's a magic number. It's made of 3 plus 3 plus 3, 3 times 3. And 3 being a number of creation. If it's tripled, it's where the creation has to expand in other ways. Not just on the physical plane, but in the spiritual plane. Number 9 is a really humanitarian number. It's about diversity. It brings everything together. It's the number before completion, a number 10, where we start the cycle again. So there's a lot of wisdom and knowledge in a number 9. Number 9 is made up of all the other numbers. So natural leaders tend to emerge with a number 9. The astrological sign of the Hermit is Virgo, the sign of service, of humility and purity. Virgo is an earth sign, but it's ruled by Mercury, the alchemist. So Virgo has a quality of herbal medicine, earth healing, and being able to come up with practical solutions. The Hermit is a card of considering before you act. It's a card that is prepared to stay still until the right time and the right answer comes forward. It's a time where you might have to learn something more, like hone your skills. In Star Wars, this would be the time when Luke Skywalker sits with the Jedi, with Yoda, and learns from the Wise One. The truth is concealed until you're mature or experienced enough to be able to use it. Remember, hermits aren't always alone. I mean, we get the idea that this guy's been sitting on top of the mountain for 7 years in silence by himself. But hermits come down off the mountain to meet with other hermits, with other wise people, with students. When hermits get together, they exchange ideas, they're able to study, they're able to learn and grow, they're able to share their insights. So you might feel withdrawal with this, but there's also an aspect of learning and sharing. When the Hermit comes up, it's a time of pause and reflection. It's a time to step out and mature. It's a time of silence and retreating from the material world for a period to restore. I see the Hermit as a sole trader, person that undertakes all of the aspects of their business by themselves. They're comfortable working by themselves. When they seek out others, it's to get expert advice. There's always just enough light to see your way to the next step with the Hermit. You'll always have enough light to see what you need. What's the difference between being lonely and being alone? Write in your journal and have a think about the difference between solitude and loneliness, about withdrawal and healing. What is it that nourishes your light? Here we are at the turning point, the Wheel of Fortune. This is the pivot point of the whole of the Major Arcana. For a moment, pause the video and write down what you see in this card. Trust what comes up and write your first impressions. So the Fool has learnt how to take time out and pause and reflect. Now, some people can get stuck in this place. That's why we need a Wheel of Fortune to come in and call you back onto the path. Do you know those game shows where they have the spinning Wheel of Fortune, and as they're spinning the wheel and the contestant is hoping that the little tick is going to land on the big prize, and are you going to get a holiday to the Gold Coast, or are you going to get a cream pie in the face? That's what this card is about. It means a turn of fortune. Your luck changes. You don't have control of time with this card. It's out of your hands. The best thing you can do is go with it and try to make the most of all opportunities. The key words for the Wheel of Fortune are good luck, inevitability, and fate, destiny. A major decision, and the big one is change. There's an impending completion that comes with this card, and essentially it's about time. Upside down, the Wheel of Fortune is bad luck, feeling victim to circumstance. Delays, blocks, things that you'd worked hard for suddenly get thrown out to the wayside. It's all part of the learning journey with this, because there's a karmic element, an element of destiny with the Wheel of Fortune. This card is such a surprise. It doesn't actually look very lucky. The main thing you see, apart from all these figures being flung around, is this central wheel with 8 spokes. The 8-spoked wheel is a pagan symbol of the wheel of the year, with these lines representing the 2 solstices, the equinox, and the feast days that fall in 6-week increments around the year. And this is the first time we're seeing a mechanised object. We did see wheels with the chariot, but they were fixed and on the side. Here, the wheel is in movement. The words rota are written around the edge, whereas when everything was in order, it was the High Priestess with her Torah script. The whole world is inverted and upside down. These winged creatures in the corners represent the fixed signs of the zodiac, but they're in their angelic or evangelical form, showing that this represents the highest aspect of those fixed signs: Aquarius, Scorpio, Taurus, and Leo. The Sphinx sits on top of the wheel. Again, another link to the chariot. Here the Sphinxes are facing in opposite directions and sitting still. Here they've merged with the sword of truth and mastery. Fate has the final word. With the chariot there was a choice, but with the Wheel of Fortune there is no choice. The decision has been made for you. The snake that appeared around the magician's waist is now flung in the air. This figure here is called an Anubis. It's an Egyptian figure, a human with a dog's head. The Egyptians believed that the Anubis was a protector and guard for the spirits of the dead. So there's this idea that even though fate is having its way, there are guides and protectors, signs and signals. Number 10 is made up of 1 plus 0, everything and nothing. It's binary code. It's the fabric of everything. And although we're only halfway through the tarot journey, the Fool's journey, and this is the pivot point, the changing point, the number 10 can throw us back to learn the lessons from the magician. The Wheel of Fortune number 10 is made up of a 1 and a 0, the magician and the Fool. So the magician has given the Fool all the learning, all the tricks. It's just said, you've got the tools. Go ahead and use them. And this is and the Fool's packed them all up in his little bag. But this is the time when the Fool's bag is just blown open. And all those tools seem inadequate. You've got to learn new things. You've got to pluck from the air. Just pluck it out of the air and be able to go with it. The astrological sign for the Wheel of Fortune is Jupiter. And Jupiter is a planet of good luck and optimism and buoyancy. Jupiter expands everything it touches. So in this card, although it's a card of chaos, it's a card of expansion. It's about luck, but it doesn't necessarily care if it's good luck or bad luck. It's up to you to work with what you have and make opportunities. This is the stage of the journey for the Fool, where the first really big change is upon him. If this was a caterpillar becoming a butterfly, it's when it's just thought it's got its life all sorted out, and then it starts getting this idea that it has to spin a cocoon. And look, really, a caterpillar doesn't know what a cocoon is. So it's quite mystifying. You're led into things that you don't really know why you're attending them, but there's some sense bigger than you that you've got to go with it. The Wheel of Fortune is that crossover point where knowledge becomes wisdom. It's also a card representing eclipses and change in fortune. Because it's related to time, this card sometimes needs time for things to eventuate. It's out of your control and you need a broader vision. This is one of the cards of change. The Tower and the Death card being one sudden change, transformative change. The High Priestess is unseen change. This is about controlling what you can control and let the universe take care of the details. After all the chaos of the Wheel of Fortune, we need time to evaluate and make a decision. And that's the Justice card. So for a moment, pause the video, pull out your Justice card, and just write down your first impressions. The Justice card is a card of decision making, weighing up, and deliberating. It's where you can assess and evaluate. With this card, the decision will be fair, unless there's very difficult cards around it. But justice will be sought, and the right thing generally happens with this card. So if you've put in the work, if you've acted and behaved well, you'll get a good result. If you haven't picked up all the details, this is the time to do it because a decision is being made. The Fool is learning how to regroup after chaos and organise himself and choose a logical, reasonable outcome. The key words of the Justice card are decision, fairness, being impartial, establishing balance and equilibrium, karma, being able to investigate. It also means law, legal and court matters, justice and truth. Reversed, the Justice can mean justice is denied. Things are unfair. A decision can't be made yet. The right ingredients aren't there. There's more information that needs to come forward. I would consider Justice Reversed to be a no card. And if you are ready to sign legal documents and you get Justice Reversed, I would go back to getting the information and reading the fine print. There's some detail you may have missed. Let's have a look at the Justice card and how balanced and cool and conservative it is. This seated goddess in her red robes with their ornate gold braid is the goddess Thetis. Think Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She totally embodies the Justice card. Her red robes are held together with a small square, which we've seen here with the Chariot, although our goddess here has a red dot in the middle. Focus, structure, purity. The Chariot is waiting to be filled. There is one foot exposed and one hidden. She is not going to reveal everything she knows. It's one step at a time. Her pose, imitating that gesture of as above, so below. The right hand is holding the sword of truth. The left hand holding the scales of justice. She can balance this sword really easily. And her hand here is draped. It's very relaxed with this weighing analysis that has to happen with the Justice card. Justice has to be balanced with mercy. These scales are also a mechanised object. The craziness of the Wheel of Fortune is now contained and held up to account. Everything is measured, cool, calm and collected, with that purpose of finding balance after chaos. And did you notice the similarity to the High Priestess? Justice is sturdy, simple, on a raised platform, whereas the High Priestess is flowing, endless and eternal. They have veils behind them, so it's not a solid structure. There's this flimsy, temporary thing holding behind them that you can step through. Purple here is the colour of valour. The yellow behind is illumination. As we said, it's linked to the air sign intellect, compared with our High Priestess, which is blue. And if you look carefully, you can actually see the water there behind her, meaning the emotions and movement, things that aren't solid. This yellow behind shows that there's a lot of thought and analysis that's gone into this balancing and equilibrium. Whereas in the High Priestess, it's a more creative process, more intuitive. This card can also mean, courts, legal documents, legal work. And the Justice here is also karmic justice. It's a time of reckoning. There's an aspect to this where if there's been an injustice, it can be rectified karmically. It's the law of cause and effect, meaning your actions start to catch up with you with this card. The Justice card links to the astrological sign of Libra. Libra is an air sign which is masculine, ruled by a feminine planet, Venus. So Libra has that balance of male logic with feminine perspective. Libra's symbol is the sign of the scales. She's the only zodiac sign with a mechanized object. And Libra is also the central pivot point of the zodiac moving into its second phase. It's the halfway point. Libra is the sign of relationships and relating. It's a sign that seeks fairness, beauty, truth, and goodness. This is the stage of a journey where you're at a crossroad and a decision needs to be made. You've come from the chaos of the Wheel of Fortune where your plans got blown apart a bit. And now you need to decide, will you stay stuck in isolation, going back to the hermit, or will you use the experience to move forward and make a sensible, reasonable, logical evaluation? Let's have a look at some of the cards with columns. So the Justice card, we can see it provides some sort of structure, organisation. It closes in the world. The High Priestess was our first one that we saw with columns. She's got this sort of lovely, radiant kind of veil hung behind her. The columns are opposites, black and white. And there's a feminine form with these columns. The next time we saw columns was with the Hierophant. These are very ornate compared to this. They close it in, they say structure and organisation, and you've got to conform within the rules. Our Justice card, the columns are stripped back. It's not ornate, it is not overdone, it's straightforward, truth, simplicity and balance. She also has the curtain coming up behind her, same as the High Priestess. So there's more to be revealed with these two cards. They require something from you in order to pass through these gateways. They're gateway cards. They require a process. Perhaps in this case it's study, in this case it's evaluation, and in this case it's internal time, connecting with the inner world. Remember, when you are required to bring justice, to be impartial, and justice without mercy is just cruelty. So this card always has to be weighed against being merciful. The cards around your Justice card will also help you see what needs to be addressed to reach that point of equilibrium. Imagine going behind this curtain to this place of illumination. Write down in your journal what it's like if you've evaluated well and you can pull down this curtain to reveal a broader world. We'll be back in the next video with the rest of this second line, the psychological level of the Fool's Journey. And in the next one, we'll cover the Hanged Man, number 12, through to Temperance, number 14. I'm Meryl Key, and this is my Mystery School. Thanks for tuning in on this little trip into the heart of tarot. Find me on Instagram at my_mystery school or on my website www.merylkey.com.